How'd it go this week?
Great. Jason.
Well,
What's the number at right now?
30.
30?
So what you're working almost been this week.
Okay. So like outside and stuff? Gotcha.
It's been really good. There's a couple times where I took her out, I like didn't even have to tap her.
Uh-huh.
She just was like right there.
At your side?
It's great.
Good, yep. And then just so you know, like that turnaround and turn and tap correction is forever.
Yeah.
It's just, it becomes less and less over the course of time.
Yeah.
So if you ever find like, oh man, like we're turning a lot more now, because things can change. How old is she?
She's about a year.
About a year? Okay. So like, you know, she's almost full grown. Typically at 2 years is when you have your dog. But 6 months in a year when we get the biggest psychological shifts.
Sure.
And then 2 years is pretty much adult dog. That's the dog you're gonna have. But like, if one day for whatever reason, a year from now, you're like, man, Juniper is not doing well on 30 or whatever,
Yeah.
you just bump the number. It's almost always bump the number, or the owners are going back to like pulling, or they're doing
Sure.
something that they're unaware of, and it's undoing the training. Okay? So any questions about that stuff? So typically for this class we do recall. Do you want to start the recall?
Sure.
Yep. Now do you happen to have a 30-foot leash?
We do. We have a 30-foot and I have a 100.
Okay, yeah, 100's a lot.
Yeah.
So 30 feet is like the perfect length. So we'll go ahead and get started with that. You see here.
That's good. The black one I have it.
I think the only one we have is the orange one, which is like,
We have the black. Didn't you have the black one?
I'm not sure. I haven't seen the
Maybe it's
We do, yeah.
probably tucked away somewhere, but
Yeah, I had a client that had a 100-foot one, and it was just a pain. And it gives the
It's
dog
like-
too much
just
freedom.
like-
Yeah,
yeah.
because once you start the exercise of recall, you want to think if there's 100 feet of slack, she has 100 feet of slack to go this way.
Yeah.
And for you to try to shorten that to limit her range of motion, it's a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have you clip this to her collar there.
Or should I replace this one or?
Yeah, and we're going to actually, excuse me, we're going to replace yours with this one. Just because, you know, we sweep and mop and stuff, but this gets covered with fur so quickly, is it's going to collect all the fur. Okay? So I'm going to show you a couple of things here. Recall is the most coordination heavy command. So I'm going to show you a couple of things here. Which hand do you hold the remote in?
Usually hold the leash in left and remote in right.
Okay, same?
Yeah.
All right, so what you're going to want to do is with your handle, you're going to keep that in your right hand.
Okay.
You're going to have your remote here. Okay? So it's loop around your thumb, remote here, which frees up these 3 fingers. Okay? You're going to have the leash over your left hand like this. Okay? And what we're going to do is when Juniper's going towards you, you're going to want to shorten your leash. So as you're back, you're going to be backing away from her, and you're going to be with these 3 fingers, just grabbing the leash and then throwing it down like that.
Okay.
Okay? The reason for this here is this is what we call the trainer lock. So if she happened to take off for no reason, she's not going to rip that out of your hand.
Yeah.
Because if you try to hold it like this, you're going to get rope burn, right? She just feeds that through. So this acts as the first lock, okay? Then as it's over your hand like this, when you're throwing, when you're throwing it down, once you decide you've done enough, you're going to take your leash and then clamp down like this. Okay, this acts as another lock, okay? So let's say I'm working with Juniper, I do this, and before I can actually get my lock on, she takes off. Again, I don't want to hold on to that, right? I can let this go, because as long as she's not running towards the street or something, I have this one here, okay? So that prevents rope burn from happening. So as force of habit, anytime you're done reeling in that leash, you're just going to clamp your hand down like this, okay? We're not needing to reel all the leash in, okay? You don't have to do all of this like this, okay? You're just shortening it. So if we're outside and Juniper's running towards you and she's just too excited and she overshoots, if you've shortened it, you know, she's only going to overshoot like 10 to 15 or 20 feet as opposed to 30 feet, okay? And it makes it a bit easier to realign her. Questions about any of that stuff?
Not really.
Okay, so then the last little bit is we want to start teaching her that pressure also means to return. Okay, so right now for the past couple of weeks, pressure has meant stay at my side or put your butt down automatically when we come to a stop, right? Here, what we're going to do in the beginning is I'm going to pull on the long leash, right? So if I was at the end of the 30-foot leash, I put a little bit of pressure and I can feel it like on her collar right there.
Yeah.
And once I feel that pressure on her collar, we're going to start tapping. So we're not going to say anything. And the moment she starts to move towards me, I stop tapping and let that pressure go, move back. And once she arrives, lock my leash. She should automatically sit. If she doesn't in the beginning, don't worry about it. We're going to praise her, good girl, and then we're going to repeat. Okay? So I'll explain, I'll run you guys all through it. Questions? Who's going to go first?
I can start.
All right.
What do I do with this one just on the
So
ground?
Matt's going to hold the short leash. The reason for that is because at some point she's going to get savvy to the exercise, and she's going to start prematurely running or following you around because she's like, oh, you're just going to tap me to call me again,
Yeah.
right? So having the short leash allows him to keep her away from you so that you can drill this out. Okay?
Sure.
Other questions?
I don't think
Alrighty. So let's go ahead and bring Juniper here, and then I'm going to have
so. This goes,
so over your hand like this, like that,
and then you lock it out this way.
and clamp.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. So then I'll have you go towards the wall. That's good right there. And go ahead and come up a couple of steps. There you go. And you're going to shorten your leash a little bit. Like that. Perfect. Okay. Now here, take a step or so back. And you're going to start to feel tension if you pull, right? So right there, what's your number currently at?
30.
Let's go down to 18. Because we're teaching something new. Whenever we teach something new, we go down low.
Okay.
Okay. Now you're going to put light pressure and tap, tap. Now drop leash. Good. Now backwards. And then stop. Okay. And then praise. Good. And then break.
And then left.
Say break.
Break.
Good. Now we're gonna reset. Okay. So when you're moving backwards, you're also going to be throwing that leash down. Okay. No. Good. Go ahead and come up a little bit so you have space to move backwards. Yeah. And then we'll bring Juniper a little bit more this way so she has some distance there. Good. Yeah, it's good right there. Okay. And same thing, you're going to put light pressure. Tap, 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 and backwards. Good. And reel in your leash. And hold right there. Tap. Now praise, good. Good. And break. Good. And we're gonna try that 3 more times. Let's go to 22 on the collar. Yeah, go ahead and grab the short leash. So now that we're doing this, she's gonna stop. She's gonna not be inclined to leave you because she's thinking she's gonna get tapped again. Tap. Good. Now back. 1, 2. That's good. Uh-oh. Yeah. Break. Good. Try it again. Good. Tap. Tap. Now back. Yep. Hold right there. Wait a minute. And praise. Good girl. Good. And break. Good. We're going to try 2 more. Good. Now praise. Break. We'll do 1 more. Good. And tap. Good. And back. 1, 2, 3. That's good. And praise. Good. All right. So in terms of where she lands, doesn't matter. Left, right, front, back, between your legs. I just want her within an immediate 2 to 3 foot bubble of me. So if she were to land outside of that bubble, we would move away and tap to make her complete it 100%. Okay? So
she's trained on recall to like
center.
Here. Yeah.
Okay. So I was, because I saw you go like that, so I was thinking that you probably trained that. That's fine. Technically, she doesn't have to land anywhere specific. If you've taught that, that's fine. Okay. So what we're gonna do now, same concept, except you're not gonna tug on the leash.
Okay.
You're gonna let it be slack. You're gonna tap 2 or 3 times. If we don't see her respond, you're gonna keep tapping, and then you're gonna pull and move backwards. Okay? Tap, 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 and back. Good, and praise. Atta girl. Gonna try 4 more. Break.
Not good with the break command. I don't think she really understands.
You're at 23 or 22?
22.
Let's go back down to we'll try 16. Tap, 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 back, tap. There you go. Good, right there. Good girl.
Yeah, good girl.
Good.
Hey, break.
Good, we're gonna do 3 more. Tap, tap, and back, tap, tap, tap. Good. Good girl. Praise.
Good girl.
Good. Just 2 more. Break.
Okay, break.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. 1 more.
Great. Okay.
Now back. 1, 2, 3. That's good. And praise. Good. So we're going to swap handlers here. Good. And we're going to go back a step. So you're going to go back to putting a little bit of pressure on the collar. Because right now she's relating everything to Kelsey, right? She's like, oh, like the last 10 times, pressure meant to go back to mom. So what you might see in the beginning is she might start tucking into her because she's thinking, oh, I got to get closer. So then we're going to go back to using the leash to guide her. We're going to do a few reps like we did here, and then we're going to start layering in the word come. Okay? Tap. Wait a second. Now back. Tap. Hold right there. Wait a second. Praise. Good. Break.
Break, go.
Good. Try again. Yep, good. Good, and praise. Excellent. Break.
Go, break.
Good, we're gonna do 3 more. Go, go, go.
Go, go, go.
Go, go, go. Got a girl. Tip, tip. Right, it's okay, there you go. Good. Tip, tip. Good girl. Good, 2 more. Good. Praise, add a girl. Good, 1 more. Good. Excellent. Now we're going to go to that step where you're going to start tapping first.
Okay.
No pressure.
Yeah.
If she doesn't respond by that 2nd or 3rd tap, keep tapping, then pull.
Okay.
Good. And a girl. Good job. Good. 4 more. Yeah, it's going to reset. And what you can do is before you're going to tap, you can let Kelsey know. Yeah. Once we start using the word come, it'll obviously be a lot easier. Tap, tap. Now back. There you go. Good. Add a girl. Good. 3 more.
Huh?
We need more room to back up if we do tap.
Good. Break. 2 more. Right. So, she's.
Alright, I'm gonna do it now.
There you go. Good. Good. And break. Good. 1 more.
I'm gonna do it now.
Uh-oh, careful.
Very good.
Good. Very good. So here, we're going to try something real quick. Go ahead and just step to the outside of her so you're in heel position. Okay? And then say heel and walk forward.
Heel.
All right, keep forward, tap. Keep forward, tap. Right, hold right there. Now turn. Turn again. Tap. There we go. Keep going straight the other way. Tap. Okay, keep straight, keep straight. There. Now try a pivot. Okay, now slow. Now stop. Okay, now she's gonna think about going to mom here. So now move forward, tap, 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 tap. Pull in your leash a little bit, tap, tap. Good, now slow turn. Good, keep forward. Going to pick up your speed a little bit. Good. Then you do a slow turn and slow walk and then stop in front of. Yep. Now here, there we go, perfect. All right, we're gonna hold right there. So in the beginning when she was going off, so you were correct technically, where you were pivoting, but since she was going off in that direction too, and because she's on the long leash and she can get further, it didn't work, so that's where going straight. Until she's going this way and you're going that way, so you're still going opposite, and eventually she's like, oh crap, this isn't working, and Dad's all the way over there. Okay. Right, once you kept that going, then she was able to catch up to you. Yeah. Because when you went this way and she was going this way, since it was so long, she could keep going. Yeah. So when we do correctional turns with the long leash, it's a little bit different, okay? So the reason why we're doing the recall like this is we're just setting the foundation down, okay? This is not realistic. You're not gonna be calling her back and forth from each other. She's gonna be chasing a squirrel. She's gonna be running with dogs or whatever. But we do this to teach her first, right? So now she's learning when I feel pressure at this distance, it means to return. So dogs interpret what the collar means depending on what life looks like at the moment. So when she's in heel, and this is you here, and you're walking, if you come to a stop, she should automatically sit. So if she's standing, the world looks a specific way. This is her reference point. So when you tap, oh, I should be here, right? If you're to be up ahead, oh, I should be here, okay? Or if she's going opposite ways to you, she sees you, oh, I should be here, okay? So now, with this, she's learning, if I'm 30 feet away and I feel this, it means to come back, okay? So we do know words first because let's say you did say, Juniper, come, and she did, and she came to you, went in center, perfect. But it didn't allow us to use the remote, right? So I always do everything no words first. I shape it. Then once I go, okay, dog's got a pretty good concept, now I add in the word, okay? Which we're gonna do in this next batch. Here, I was just showing you how quickly we transfer to off-leash. So there's stages. So the methods that we use to train are off-leash methods. So the only thing that changes is whether the leash is on or off. But there has to be a middle ground. So for her, when she's on the short leash, I've had dogs be perfect, spot on, and do all this fancy footwork. And the moment the owner takes the leash off, the dog forgets everything. And it's because the leash is a reference point. They see the leash going here, so they're kind of following that. So when you remove that, even though everything's the same, for them it looks different. So the way we transition them is by going to the long leash. So if I put her in the heel and she starts to go off and I turn to correct her and I'm remoting, I'm not worried about is she gonna keep running away? Because at some point we're gonna hit tension, right? So then when she goes and she feels the tension and tapping, she's, oh crap, he's all the way over there. Now she has to catch up. So we're teaching her how to correct the positioning at a distance, but also without needing the long leash as a frame of reference, okay? So all the rules stay the same. Your pivots, you do like that. Your crossovers, you do like that, right? All that stuff stays the same. The only thing that changes is the length of that leash, okay? Questions so far? So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna go ahead and tell her break. We're gonna reset. We'll swap handlers and we're gonna start cueing in the word of come. So everything's gonna stay the same. You're gonna go Juniper come, start tapping and moving back, even if she already starts to come towards you. So if you call her and she responds, you're still gonna tap at least once. Okay, and I'll explain after we do a few reps, okay? And back, 1, 2, 3, and hold. Right, now here back, right, then come to a stop. Tap, back, tap, 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 tap. Good. Hold. Good. Now praise. Atta girl. Break. Good. And what you can do if she doesn't auto sit is step on the leash, so it limits her, and then she'll correct it. Tap. Good. Yeah, step on that leash. Tap. 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 Grab your green leash. Lightly pull up and tap. Right, wait a moment, yep. Now relax, now praise.
Yeah,
Good girl.
Yes, good job.
And break.
Break.
Good, 3 more. Tap, tap, tap. Good. Tap. So what you can do here, grab the green leash and you're gonna feed it through from the inside like this. The other way, from behind. Yeah. Okay. Now you're gonna kind of pull back, tap, and then forward like that. Like that. Now praise.
Yeah, good girl. Yeah.
So what will end up happening is you have to, because she knows what food, I'm assuming, right? The feeding in the center, is if she doesn't land, once she gets to the point where she understands that you're gonna tap, like let's say she misaligns, you're gonna tap and she's gonna go back and she's gonna feed through. But in the beginning, because she hasn't been taught through pressure, you have to have some kind of physical guidance as you tap to guide her into the position.
Okay.
And once you've done that a few times, when you tap, she'll just pop in the middle. Okay? Break. Tap, 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 tap. Good. Good. Praise.
Yes,
Good girl.
Nice job.
We'll try a couple more.
Break.
Go, go, go. Tap. Good. Good. Praise.
Yes, good girl.
And one more.
Break.
Good. Good. And praise.
Yes, good girl.
Good. Let's go and swap handlers.
Break. What's that?
Swap handlers.
Come.
Tap. Now back. Tap. Tap. There we go. Good. And praise that a girl. Good job. Break. Good. 4 more.
Come.
And praise. Good. Break. Good. 3 more.
Come.
Good. Good. Good girl. Break. 2 more. Girl. And last one. Break.
Count.
Very good. So go ahead and get her back in heel position there.
Okay.
Tap. And heel.
Heel.
Tap. Right. Now slow walk there. And stop. Okay. There you go. Add a girl. Good. So, the reason why we want to tap every single time you call her is because we want to force a mistake. Okay. So if you call Juniper and she starts coming to you and then you tap her, what do you think happens?
She can stop and run around.
Yeah, she might stop, run around, or run away from you. Because she's thinking you said something, I responded, and the tap came after, right? So then she thinks this is the wrong thing. She turns around and starts running away, okay? So as we start the recall, right away I start with proofing, okay? So every time you call her, Juniper come, always with a tap, okay? Even if she's already moving, with a tap. And if you call her and tap and you see she turns around, keep tapping. We don't call her again, just keep tapping, move backwards and pull on the leash, okay? So then she thinks, oh, the tap didn't mean run off the other way. It meant run to mom or dad, okay? So we do that at the get-go because because people tend to lay off remote so quickly once they start to see progress. And then they're off leash and then they call their dog doesn't respond, then they remote them, then they set them off. And now you're stuck, right? So the tool that's supposed to make them return is the tool that's making them run away. So recall is the longest command to proof and teach because it requires you to go somewhere. Heel is easy or the fastest because you walk your dog multiple times a day. Here you actually have to have the space. You also have to have distractions, squirrels, rabbits, dogs, whatever, people. And you have to work around all those things. So if you always work in a very bland environment or the same park, she's going to be great at that park. And then you go to a different park, not so great, okay? So obedience doesn't transfer to environments. New environments, you have to practice in a number of new places before she starts to relate like, oh, come means come no matter what I'm doing and no matter where I'm at, okay? The reason for that movement back, because that's super important, is it gives her something to attach to, okay? Most people, when they call their dog, are just standing still, right? Come, and the dog looks at you, they go, what? Just standing still, right? So like people, they'll complain when they call their dog at the dog park, their dog ignores them, but when they try to leave the dog park, the dog follows them, right? And they're like, oh, my dog's scared that I'm gonna leave him alone. Like, no, the dog doesn't understand that. The dog just goes, oh, you're moving now. What are we doing, right? So here, for Juniper, if you're out at a big park, it gives her something to attach to. If you're in a crowd of people, it differentiates you from that crowd of people. But also, it lets her know, it's like, let's say she can't hear you because she's too far and you remote her. She should start scouting what's going on, and then she sees you doing this. And that's her visual cue if you need to return, okay? So I always do at least 3 steps. Juniper come, and she's on her way, 1, 2, 3, and I'll hold. If she were to detour, start tapping, turn this way, keep moving back, and then once she locks on, 1, 2, 3, and then hold, okay? So we never move into the dog with the recall. You always move away from them. If you move into them, you do part of the work, or they think it becomes a game. And then we start playing chase, okay? So I don't play the chase game. I use the pressure and always moving away. And at this stage, we're always using the leash, okay? Or at least having it on, just in case she makes the wrong decision, no big deal. I have physical connection to help direct her into the pressure, okay? Questions about any of that stuff so far?
No.
So when it comes to practicing this to become realistically applicable, we just start practicing in life. Let's say I walk to the park and I swap out my leashes, I put her on the long leash, Juniper break, I hold on to the end, and just walk. Now let her be a dog. She's running around. Maybe I see some trees with squirrels in there. I know she loves squirrels. I walk over there. She's running. She's barking up a storm. Then I just hang back. I let her do that for like 5 minutes. Really get into it. Juniper come. Boom, 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 boom. Moving back. Pulling her away from those squirrels. She comes back to me, good girl, wait a moment. Because a lot of times they'll come back and then they're tempted to run back to the distraction. So I'll wait a little bit, break, and let her grow off again. Okay, so that's why we were saying break as well.
Sure.
So most people, when they call their dog comes back, but then we'll preemptively run off again to play with dogs or whatever. Not with how we teach it. Once we call her, she would technically, for you, the way you've taught it, be between your legs and not move until you've given the release. Okay, so if I hang back off of calling her off a distraction, she might be tempted to run back. So I give like 5-10 seconds. She's good, break. Now you can go back to the squirrels again. Okay. Does she have prey drive?
Does she have what?
Prey drive?
Not really. She's like, if a bird is like close enough, she'll kind of do this, but I've never seen her chase a bird or a squirrel or anything.
Okay.
She's never really seen like.
We haven't run into too many squirrels though.
We definitely haven't run into a ton of squirrels, but the birds, she sees them, she's definitely interested in them, but she's never chased it.
Okay, so come the spring and summertime, you know, when you go out to a park and you see squirrels and stuff, see if there's interest. If she's got good prey drive, makes training recall a lot easier because now you can just look for squirrels and stuff and not have to worry about using dogs, right? Because if you call her off with squirrels or whatever, it makes calling off of dogs easier. Otherwise, if we don't have any prey drive to harness, then we have to just find like a friend or two that have dogs and then practice with them, which makes it even longer because now you have to organize the practice sessions, right?
Yeah.
So let's say, you know, and this is assuming maybe she has some prey drive. There's 3 points where we call. There's once they've been doing it for a while, there's as they just get there, and then there's when they're on their way, okay? So like if I go break, and maybe she's running towards a group of dogs to go play, halfway to a quarter, 3/4 through, Juniper come, boom, 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 start tapping, moving back, right? Because now she's got to disengage from the pursuit and 180 back. Or she's just getting there to the dog, call her right there. And then the last one would be, she's been actively playing for like 5 minutes and then calling her out of the group, okay? Now, if you do practice with dogs, keep it to only 1 or 2 dogs, okay? Because she's gonna need her long leash. So I'll leave it on the ground, they're playing, and then I just keep myself nearby the end of the leash. So once I see an opening or a good moment, I can step on it or pick it up, Juniper come. Call her out of it, she comes, good girl, wait a moment, right? Break, boom, let her go back to it again, okay? Questions about that?
I guess my only question is how long are we like connected to the line for? Is it like, do we just like use our best judgment and like see what's going on in the park?
Yeah, because you know what you're gonna do with Juniper.
Yeah.
Right, so if you're like, yeah, we're gonna go hiking, go to the forest preserve, and we're gonna see deer and all that stuff, then we're on there for a bit, right? Because the more often you practice outside, the more you're exposing yourself to a potential shit show.
Sure.
Okay, so in the summertime, springtime, we were teaching at Oz every day, right? And saw car accidents, saw off-leash, we got charged by off-leash dogs. I saw people chasing their dogs because they wouldn't come to them, you know? I saw a lot more craziness than I thought I would see at a park. Does that make sense? Because we were there 8 in the morning to like 6, 7 o'clock at night. So we had more exposure to these things happening. Whereas for the average person, we had a crazy lady start harassing people and try to harass my client, you know? And you know, I'm like, really at Oz Park? I'm like, yeah, you know, because we were there all the time. So here, if you go to the park once a month for an hour, your exposure to the things that can happen is limited, right? So that's why I go start targeting things, you know, like the lakefront over by Diversity and Inner Lakeshore, tons of squirrels, bikers, people with dogs, you know, off-leash dogs, lots of distractions there. Oz Park's a great one because it's just so congested with people and dogs and all that stuff too. So if you only practice in like the neighborhood park, and if that's going to be your life with Juniper, then that's fine because she's not going to go anywhere outside of that. Sure. But if it's like, no, like we would be taking her to a lot of places and she'd be exposed to a lot of things, then that leash is going to be on for a bit. And it would be better judgment in terms of when you know to progress past it. I've had people after the second class already walking their dog off leash, even before I even said anything. And they're like, yeah, Jesse, I took the leash off, look. And they're walking with the dog. their confidence is just through the roof. And that's actually the biggest part of it. Because I've had clients who've done full 9 to 12 week programs, and I'm like, man, your dog is really good. And they're like, I don't know, I don't trust my dog. I think they're still gonna run away. Then I say, keep practicing, because your dog is ready, you're not. Does that make sense? And I had a lady, she did 9 classes, her dog was reactive. We fixed all that stuff, her dog was great at the end of the 9 classes. I told her, great dog, did a lot of good work. And then she's like, well, I don't trust him. I said, that's fine. I was like, and she's like, I'll never take him off the long leash. Fast forward a year, she came to one of my pack walks in Lakeview. She had him off leash. And then I was like, oh, what's going on? She's like, yeah, Jesse, he's amazing. Like, I have him off leash now. He's made dog friends, right? All this stuff. But it took her longer than the 9 classes she had with me to get her confidence there. Does that make sense? So you'll know, because the last thing is, you can only train for so much, right? And in 2020, I had probably 5 or 8 people whose dogs took off because of fireworks or just random shit. And they just 127 and made it happen. That's the biggest thing, is you can only train for so much. And if life throws you a crazy curveball, you still have this tool that can force a response. It's just a matter of, can you think it through and make it happen. Okay, so a lot of it's conditioning. The other thing that I typically recommend, once you feel like you're good and you're like, man, we've done a lot of work with Juniper, we think we're ready for like off leash, is before I do that, I proof one more time using max power. Okay, I go to the park, she's on her long leash, we're 127, and I let her be a dog for like 15, 20, like no rules, nothing, just having fun. And randomly, 127, pop, 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 right? And then she's gonna yip, freak out. What are you gonna do? She starts to run away. You have a leash, 127. You have to work her through 127. She runs back to you. Good girl. Break, and then I ignore her. Okay, don't do anything else. Or it's 127, and she just 180s and runs straight back to you because you've done so much conditioning. Does that make sense? So it's either she's gonna succeed or fail. If she succeeds, great, you did a lot of good work. If she fails, not a problem. It can also just be her instinct to panic when she goes under a lot of discomfort, but you have to use max power to make her return, because if there isn't a case of an emergency, it's gonna be max power to override. Because if she's running away from a threat, it's against instinct to run to danger, right? If there's a burning building, you're not like, hey, let me run in there, unless there's something driving you to, right? Oh, I gotta get my kid, I gotta get my dog or whatever. You're not gonna go in that fire, you're gonna move away from it. Same thing for the dog. For her to move into it, there has to be a driving factor. So then essentially, it's like you're making the dog more afraid of running away from the sound, or running away from you. I'm sorry, more afraid of running away from you than they are from the sound, right? You're having to override that. So she's like, oh shit, like this I can actually feel as opposed to the sound that I think I should be afraid of, okay? So, but that's condition. And then when you're ready, and I tell people like it's optional because people feel bad. But I was like, but if you want to proof it, because one, you're going to go into it and you're going to go, Juniper, this is going to be a bad day. Because you already know. Is people have the emotional component where they feel bad. But then also if she panics, right? But once you do that, now it's familiar. So if something does happen and she feels 127, she's like, oh shit, I've done this before. Right? And then for you, you've also done it before. Because trust me, I've had so many people tell me so many things about when they panic and they're like, I wasn't even thinking, I just started maxing out the collar and tapping and stuff, and the dog came and they're just telling me the craziness of it. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, that makes complete sense. So we do it in controlled context first. Okay? Other questions?
Nothing for me.
In terms of when you practice, be mindful not to drill it too much. Because if you go and you call her 100 times, she'll never want to leave your side. So when you go, let's say you do 30 minutes every day, maybe one day you give her the full 30 minutes of being a dog, you call her once at the end, okay? And then another day you go, you call her 5 times, and then 2 times, and then 2 times. Yeah, because if you go and you drill it 20 times every single time, she's not gonna wanna leave your side. She doesn't get paranoid. If you go somewhere and it's like no distractions to work and she has no interest, you could go back to this, right? Just to get something done. But this is not realistic. This is just, if that's all you have, that's what you can do. The other thing you could do is if, like, let's say you're like, crap, she doesn't like squirrels, she doesn't like rabbits, she doesn't like birds, right? She only likes dogs, and we can only get that every so often, is you can still recreate it. So like you would start side by side, you'd have the short leash, you're ready with the remote and everything, and then you can even first start with walking, and we wouldn't say heel, you just start walking with her. You call her as the person's walking, okay? So she's gonna probably get confused because she's gonna think heel, which is important that we don't say it, okay? Eventually, once you see that she's able to disengage from the person, then we move to running. Now I'm running with Juniper, right? Then we do a recall, because you're trying to recreate the away motion. Because typically when people call their dogs, it's they're chasing something, they're running away, or they're running towards something they shouldn't. It's almost always moving away from the owner. So that's one way you can recreate it. The last thing would be if she's got good like tug drive or play drive, does she?
Oh, yes.
Cool. So that's something you can also harness. We go low in the collar. I'd go 8 to 10,
Okay.
real low. One of you guys is playing tug with Juniper, right? Just tug, 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 tug. Other person has the leash, has the remote. You call her. And the reason why we go 8 to 10 is you're trying not to kill tug drive.
Right.
You're trying to, enough to annoy her to pull her away. And when she's moving towards you, good girl, back, right, all that stuff. Between your legs, wait a moment. Break. Runs back to tug. Yes, right? Because now she's disengaging from something that she loves and is actively, doing, which is kind of like the barking up a tree. Okay, but if we drill that too much or too high on the collar, she's gonna either not want to play tug, or you'll see her preemptively leaving the tug. Okay, so it's a fine balance of like trying to use these things, but not doing it too much that she loses interest, or she preemptively runs to you because she knows the game. Okay, but it's all part of the process. But those are other means of trying to build a more realistic recall. Okay, other questions?
I did have a question. In transitioning, we eventually want to like be able to run with her and like go on runs. Is that like very similar with like the heel, or is that like completely?
No, it's the same.
Okay.
What you would do is walk a block, jog a block, walk a block, jog a block. Okay. So when you're in the jog, same thing applies. If Juniper goes, turn, kick out. Okay. Eventually, and it's a pretty quick process. Okay. So once you go run a block, walk a block, and she's just on your hip, then it's walk a block, jog 2 blocks, walk a block, jog 3 blocks, right? You start to increase it until next thing she is just able to run at your side. I will say that the most common thing that I hear from people that run with their dogs after they've learned heel is they lag. Okay, so typically before heel, the dogs will be in front of the owner.
Right.
They're like, man, Jesse, my dog pulls me the entire time. We teach heel. Then the most common problem is my dog lags when I run now. And though everybody's like, well, that's so weird. They went from pulling to lagging. And it's because if they're too stimulated, they don't feel the exhaustion. They're on go. When you teach them how to heel and for them to focus exercise, they kind of, in my opinion, they realize like, oh shit, I'm getting tired, or they pick a pocket that they know that they can keep up with for a long run.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
So that's okay?
Yes, that's the exception. Because I've had several people, 127, and the dog will yip and run up, and then within seconds, lag again.
Yeah.
And they're like, Jesus, not even 127. I'm like, yeah, because the dog, they know. I'm like, as long as it's not a problem, as long as they're not getting ahead of you and it's only during the jog, then it's perfectly fine. Okay? But yeah, you start with a walk, then jog.
Awesome. I'm excited.
Anything else?
Not for me.
We took a really long walk and she's just like beaten out.
She's tired, yeah. Oh, with this stuff that we're doing here, if you want to start dabbling with the heel to start building towards off-leash reliability, because the only command that has to be off-leash reliable is recall, okay? But I always give people a little more, and I'm like, it just takes practicing with this, and then you get it to the point where you don't need it anymore, okay? Let's say you do a recall, tell her heel, again, everything's the same, except now we have a 30-foot leash. And you can walk. If you're on the lakefront, I've had people on the lakefront, they'll get like a 10-foot leash, and they'll walk up the trail with the dog off leash, or with the leash dragging. And if the dog dips off, they can just step on it. It's real easy for them to correct, and they keep walking. So they're still a precaution, but they're building up to that off-leash level. Okay. And as we progress with the other classes, I'll give you other things you can practice with as well. But you can already start doing that as soon as you have your long leash.
Sure.
Sounds good.
Okay?
Awesome.
Anything else?
No,
So,
Hey, you done?
I'm leaving.
Good job.